You're going to think I'm the villain in this story, and maybe I am, but when you hear the whole thing, I need you to tell me if you would have done the exact same thing to your own family. I mean, my entire savings, the money I'd been busting my butt for since I was 16 gone, drained. And when I confronted my dad about the literal zero balance in my account, the man just snorted, looked me dead in the eye, and said, "We needed it more." That one sentence, delivered with such cold, casual entitlement, was the moment I realized the people who were supposed to love me most were actually financial predators wearing my family's faces. The feeling of that betrayal, that absolute gut punch, made my hands tremble as I reached for my bag, and I remember the words just slipping out, my voice dangerously calm. "Then you won't mind what's coming next." They were still laughing. My dad and my two older brothers, genuinely amused by my distress, when a loud bang shook the entire reach. A house. The front door didn't just open, it, flew open, and that's when everything changed. But let me take you back 3 weeks before that absolute explosion, back to what was supposed to be a joyous family reunion. I'm the youngest, the baby of the family, and unlike my dad and my two brothers, Mark and David, I actually managed to get out of our small, financially stagnant hometown and make a real life for myself. I got a degree in software development, landed a killer job, and for the first time in my life, I had real financial independence. Mark and David, well, they both tried the get-rich-quick schemes Dad always pushed, which usually involved draining whatever money my mom and dad had, only to have the ventures fail spectacularly. They were both still living at home, relying on my parents, and my parents, bless their hearts, just enabled them, always believing the next big idea was just around the corner. I always paid for my own way. I bought my own car, paid for my own college, and lived extremely frugally so I could build up a safety net. That safety net was my savings account, a solid $55,000 I had worked 6 years to accumulate, money I was planning to use for a down payment on a small condo. I never told them the exact amount, but they knew I was doing well. The reunion was ostensibly to celebrate my dad's 60th birthday, but as usual, it devolved into a thinly veiled attempt to get me to hand over money. The first day, Mark corners me while I'm helping in the kitchen. He tells me about his Revolutionary Times new app idea basically, a shoddier version of 3 things that already exist and how he just needs $10,000 in seed money to launch the empire. I politely, but firmly said no, explaining that my savings were for a house, not a speculative venture. He got sulky, the classic, "Oh, you've forgotten where you came from now, that you're rich" line. Later that evening, David pulled the same routine, but his was for a new opportunity in vintage car flipping, which required $15,000. Again, I refused. The requests weren't just from my brothers. My dad kept sighing dramatically, talking about the stress of their mortgage, how the house was falling apart, and how he wished he had a smart son who would help him shoulder the burden. It was guilt, pure and simple, and I felt it, but I stood my ground. I knew if I gave them even $1, they'd see me as their personal ATM. After the weekend, I drove back to my city, feeling relieved but exhausted. I tried to shake off the feeling of being hunted, of being seen only as a source of funds. About a week later, I got a random notification from my bank. It was an unusual transaction alert. My stomach dropped instantly. I logged into my account, and that's when the nightmare began. The balance wasn't just low, it was **0**. Every single penny of that $55,000 was gone. The transaction log showed a series of massive wire transfers over the course of 2 days, all initiated from my bank's app, and all going to a single holding account I didn't recognize. I immediately called the bank, practically hyperventilating, but they informed me the transfers were authorized using my device and my correct security credentials. They said they would launch an investigation, but the initial prognosis was grim. It looked like I had authorized them. I knew I hadn't. The only way anyone could have accessed my account was if they had my phone, my password, and my security answers, which were stored only in my head. I remembered leaving my phone charging in the living room for about 30 minutes while I was out getting groceries for the family dinner. Anyone could have picked it up, and my dad knew my common password pattern. It was a terrifying realization. The people who I had just spent a weekend with, the people who were smiling in the family photos on my phone, had stolen my life savings. I felt a cold rage settle. In my chest, a fire that felt entirely new. This wasn't just theft, this was a complete violation of trust, a calculated move to cripple me financially, just because I wouldn't times willingly, times give them money. I called my dad first, keeping my voice level, though my hands were shaking so hard I could barely hold the phone. I just asked a simple, leading question. Did you notice anything unusual while I was gone? He was vague, immediately defensive. I decided I needed to see them face to face. I drove the 3 hours back to the family house that evening, not calling ahead, not giving them a chance to prepare. I walked into the living room, and all three of them, Dad, Mark, and David, were there, watching the game, looking perfectly relaxed. I walked straight up to my dad, opened my banking app, showed him the zero balance, and just said, "My money is gone. All of it." "Did you do this?" My dad didn't even have the decency to look guilty. He looked annoyed, like I was interrupting his game. "Oh, that," he said, waving a hand dismissively. "Yeah, we had to use it." I was stunned into silence. He actually admitted it. He didn't deny it, didn't apologize, nothing. He just said we had to use it. I forced myself to speak. Use it for what? That was my down payment. That was my future. And that's when he delivered the line that became the trigger for everything that followed. He snorted, a sound of utter contempt and dismissal, and said, "Asterisk, asterisk. We needed it more. Your brothers have this big opportunity, and the house needs a new roof. You'll make it back. You're the successful one. We're family. Family helps family." Asterisk, asterisk. Mark and David just nodded along, looking smug, completely comfortable with their father's act of financial violence against their own brother. My whole body went cold. The rage disappeared, replaced by a crystalline clarity. The times family times they spoke of was just a mechanism for self-preservation, a shield for their entitlement. They saw me as an endless resource, not a person. My trembling hands weren't from fear anymore. They were from the effort of containing the utter devastation I felt. I reached into my shoulder bag, my eyes never leaving my father's smug face, and I pulled out a small, leather-bound folder. "Then you won't mind what's coming next," I said. They laughed at that, a short, cruel burst of sound, clearly assuming I was just going to cry or yell or beg. They thought I was defeated. They thought they had won. So that's the situation I was in, and I had to make a choice. I was completely wiped out by the three people who were supposed to be my safe harbor. My entire future was stolen by the very people who created me, and their only justification was a disgusting sense of entitlement. Before I tell you what happened next, what I did that shook the foundations of that house and that family, I want you to asterisk, asterisk, pause this video right now. Asterisk, asterisk, and comment below what you would have done in my shoes. Would you have let it go, written it off to family, or would you have fought back? Tell me what your revenge would have been. I stood there, watching their laughter fade as they saw the look in my eyes wasn't one of submission, but of absolute resolve. As they laughed, a loud bang shook the house. The front door asterisk, asterisk, flew open asterisk, asterisk, and standing there were three men in work uniforms, one carrying a clipboard, one carrying a large wrench, and the third holding a crowbar. They didn't even look at my family. The man with the clipboard looked at me and said, "We're here for the boiler and the A.C. unit, per the contract." My dad's jaw dropped. "What? Who are you? You can't just barge in here." I stepped forward, my voice still dangerously calm. "They can, Dad. Remember how you said the house needed a new roof, and that you needed my money because family helps family?" I held up the leather folder. "This is a stack of contracts. I used the money I had left, the $5,000 I'd put into a separate emergency account, that you didn't know about, to hire these contractors." Mark finally found his voice, sputtering. "To hire them for what?" "They're talking about the furnace." I gave him a cold, hard stare. "Mark, David, Dad, I didn't just stand there and let you take everything. If you want to play dirty, I can play dirtier. Your actions showed me that the only thing you respect is power and money, and since you stole my money, I decided to take back the only other thing I had leverage over. Asterisk, asterisk, your comfort and your control. Asterisk, asterisk. I looked at the lead contractor and nodded. Gentlemen, please proceed. The house needs the work done. So let's start with the items that I know were just replaced 2 years ago and are still perfectly functional. The crew started moving. They went straight to the basement and the main heating, cooling unit. My dad started yelling, "Stop! You can't take those. It's freezing outside. We need the heat." "You needed my money more, Dad," I shot back, a twisted smile forming on my face. "And I need my money back. I'm taking the house collateral. Since you're using my $55,000 for house maintenance and big opportunities, I figured I'd ensure the house maintenance is truly times necessary by having the most expensive, easily removable, and essential appliances uninstalled." I explained that over the past few hours, I had contracted 3 different companies, the boiler guys, the AC guys, and a separate crew for the water heater, all scheduled to arrive sequentially. The fine print in the contract I had them sign stated they were removing perfectly functional units times for resale times to recoup my loss, and the house owner, me, had signed off. My father was turning a terrifying shade of red. He lunged at me, but the lead contractor stepped smoothly in front of him. "Sir, step away from the client. We are legally contracted to remove this property. If you interfere, we will call the police for obstruction." The situation devolved into a full-blown chaotic mess. Mark and David tried to argue, claiming I had no right, but I simply pointed to the legal paperwork I'd printed out and laminated on my drive over, which stated that as an equal, though non-mortgaged, resident, I had a right to authorize property removal for the purpose of a financial settlement. It was a flimsy legal shield, but it was enough to make the contractors feel secure and my family hesitate. Over the next hour, the heating, the AC, and finally, the new, high-efficiency water heater were disconnected, hoisted out, and loaded onto trucks. The house quickly began to feel cold, silent, and empty. The final act was the worst for them. I went into the main breaker box, flipped the power to the main line, and walked over to the internet router. They all watched, their faces frozen in disbelief. "No internet, no power, no heat, no hot water." I said, "You wanted my $55,000 for your big opportunities and a new roof? Fine. Enjoy the opportunities, but you will do so cold, in the dark, and with a roof that won't matter when the internal walls freeze and burst the pipes." I looked at my dad, who was now just a shell of his arrogant self, his eyes wide with a sudden, devastating realization of the consequences. "The resale value of these appliances," I explained, "will net me about $8,000 back, maybe $10,000. It's not the $55,000 you stole, but it's a start. You have a choice. You can admit to the police that you stole my life savings, or you can use your *** new opportunity money *** to buy and install new heating, cooling, and plumbing by the end of the week. Either way, you'll be paying for the fact that you thought you could bleed me dry and get away with it." The aftermath was exactly what you'd expect. My mother, who had been hiding in her room, came out crying, begging me not to do this to them. She was the only person I felt any guilt toward, but I looked at her and said, "Mom, they stole my future. They told me I didn't need my own money. You stood by and let them do it. I'm fighting for my survival." I walked out of that house and drove away, leaving them standing in the doorway of their suddenly cold, unlivable home. A complete reversal of fortune delivered in a single afternoon. 3 weeks later, I heard the full story through a distant cousin. My dad had panicked. He didn't want the police involved, as the theft was easily traceable to his bank account once I filed a proper report. He also couldn't bear the thought of living in a house without basic necessities. Mark and David's big opportunities turned out to be as worthless as I suspected. They had spent a good chunk of the stolen money on initial startup costs and a few vanity purchases. The remaining funds, which were significant, my dad was forced to use to buy and hire new times contractors to install a new boiler, furnace, and water heater, which cost them significantly more than the resale value of the ones I took. The final irony? They had to take out a new loan to cover the gap and the installation costs, using the Times House Times as collateral, which was exactly the financial stress they claimed my $55,000 was supposed to fix. They lost my money, and now they had a new, much larger debt. They were ruined, and they did it to themselves. I received a final, furious text from my dad saying I was dead to him, to which I simply replied, "The moment you stole my money, you ceased to be my father." I never looked back. I filed a limited police report to log the theft, which remains open, but I didn't press charges, keeping the threat of formal prosecution hanging over them like a permanent cloud. I moved on, started saving again from scratch, and honestly, the peace of mind I gained from not being their financial target anymore was worth more than the money itself. So, that's the end of my story. I lost my savings, but I won my freedom and delivered a brutal, immediate consequence for their monumental betrayal. Was I wrong for dismantling my family's home, for leaving my parents in the cold? I still struggle with that question. But I look at the zero balance in my account and I remember the snort, the entitlement, the coldness of their betrayal, and I think I did what any desperate person fighting for their future would do. Like this video if you were on my side. If you think they deserved every bit of what they got. Subscribe to the channel for more shocking stories like this one. And please, share your final, unvarnished thoughts on this whole mess in the comments section below. I want to read what you all think. I'll see you all in the next story.